This is a great segue into one of the things that I wanted to be able to talk about with you is survival mode. But there are different types of survival mode or different, well, there's survival mode, but then there's different stages of it. There are the people
Correct.
that are just heading into it and they're going, I got to do whatever I can do. And then there are the people that are in it for a little while and they're in it is what it is mode. And then there are the people that realize I've been in this for a little bit too long. How do I figure out how to be able to get out of it? And I think that's one of the great parts about the conversations that we get to have of what's next. Because that at that point, people are starting to realize, you know what, it is what it is, but it could also be something else. And that's where you get to have a deeper conversation. You get to ask those follow-up questions because when someone is panicked and they're going into something and they haven't really had a chance to think it through, they're probably more open to all kind of reckless things that they just think will be a quick band-aid that will pull them out of it. And one of the conversations we've had is the easy button. So we've talked about there being three types of mindsets, and there are the people that are more seeking things within their comfort zone. There are the people that leap without looking. And then there's that happy medium where they're in that strategic middle where they realize, I know I'm going to have to take some risks. I'm going to have to get out of my comfort zone, but there has to be something where there's somewhat some guardrails that allow me to be able to kind of put myself out there without being completely reckless. And I
Yeah.
think that's one of the things that you excel at. So I'd love if you could talk about those three different mindsets and how you see it from the conversations and then some of the conversations you're having with them.
So I'm going to say, put a pin in that for 1 minute,
Mm,
because I want to go back to what you said. And I might ask you to remind me again to go back to those three things.
no
But
problem.
let's talk about survival mode for a minute.
Hmm.
Now, I'm not talking about the 5% on each end, right?
Right.
Like if you're literally homeless, you are in a completely different situation
Hmm.
than somebody who says, I got a month or two worth of income and I could be on the street, but I'm okay for now,
Right.
right? Or that person who says, I'm seeing the road, I got 6 months worth of stuff. So
Hmm.
if you're that person who is homeless and that far off, you need really big help. You need to work with situations and organizations and
Right.
things, right? So we're not going to address that person. I want to talk about the people who are not there, but they're seeing, like, I see a place where that
The
could be,
writing on the wall. Yes.
right? The writing on the wall. I was just talking to somebody earlier today, as a matter of fact, who told me she's 2 months behind on her rent.
Hmm.
She's having a problem. She's doing some side gig that's not really what she wants to do, but it's helping her pay her most important bills.
Hmm.
So let's talk about that. I fully respect people who say driving for Uber or doing Instacart or something is not what I want to do forever. But for right now, it's either putting food on the table or paying my important bills, and I give them credit. Okay. But I want them to understand, is this where you want to be 5 and 10 years from now, or even a year from now? If the answer is, I don't know, they're that people you were talking about that they're not really thinking. And sometimes that's fear. Sometimes that's being afraid of rejection. Sometimes it's anxiety. Okay. But if you're doing it because you know it's a short-term fix and you're doing it while you're building a business, looking for a job, doing two or three other things, I give you all the credit in the world,
Hmm.
and know that you've got to have that plan that says, where am I going to be in 30 days, in 90 days, in 6 months, right? And you've
Yes.
got to work for that. So that's not the easy button. Let's just be clear here. Those are people who are really working, and I give them all the credit in the world. Okay. But we, people like you and I, need to work with them to say, where do you want to go? What do you need to do? Now, there's a difference in the answer between where do you want to go and what do you want your life to look like when you say, I'm successful.
Absolutely.
Two different things. Do you know that more than 50% of the people that I've talked to don't understand those are not the same thing?
Hmm.
So, Sean, if you said, love working with numbers, been a bookkeeper in the corporate America forever, and guess what? I'm going to go open a bookkeeper business. I would come back to you and say, great, sounds like you're doing something that you're good at.
Hmm.
What do you want your life to look like a year from now, 5 years from now? When you say, I got a successful bookkeeper business, you didn't understand my question.
Right.
Okay. So then I go deeper. So what's a successful bookkeeper business look like? If the only thing you're chasing is a dollar amount, again, you haven't understood the question. There
Mm.
are a lot of people out there that have tons of money because they're working 18 hours a day.
Yes.
Their health is in the garbage. They are getting ready to have a heart attack, and they got no time for personal fulfillment, family, enjoyment, spa day or whatever. Okay.
Mhm.
They have none of that because they're working 18 hours a day, so they got a successful business. Now, if that's what somebody wants and to them that's success, far be it from me to say anything about that. To me, that's not success. And to most of the people that I talk to who consider themselves successful, I mean, if you looked at Damon John or you looked at Robert Herjavec or those guys and said, would you consider working 18 hours a day, 6 to 7 days a week, and not having any time or health successful? You know what they would probably tell you? There was a point in time when I needed to do that for this much time because in
Yes.
order to get from here to there, I had to do that. So if it's a finite, look, I've been an incident commander forever. I have done physical risk. I've been through natural disaster events. I've done 18 and 24-hour days for 2 and 3 days straight and
Mhm.
completely worn out and ready to like pass out. Okay. It's a finite period of time.
Yes.
I can do anything for 24 hours, even stay up and run an incident. Okay. Even 48 if I have to. But if you told me I got to do that for 7 or 10 or 20 days in a row without sleep and food and relax, I would die. Right. Your life is the same way. So you've got to understand what success looks like. And if you're tunnel vision, there's a reason. So I would go back to that easy button that you talked about, and I would go back to what's behind it. Now, I will fully admit I have a little bit of a psychology background, so I'm going to throw a couple things in here, but there's people out here who know way more than me. I'm just giving you my feedback. Okay. Are you afraid of people saying no? Are you afraid of what you might look like? Are you
Mhm.
afraid of what people might think? Right? If you know what you're afraid of, there's really two options, right? It's that fork in the road. You either admit it and you go, "Yep, that's what I'm afraid of. Not going anyplace. Done. I'm hanging back here." Then that makes you accept responsibility for what comes after that. See,
Yes.
I'm a big believer in we don't all make the best decisions 100% of the time. We just don't. And I'm the first one to admit I've made decisions that have not been great decisions,
Oh,
and
I've made
I'll
some doozies,
I'll say
yes.
that, right?
Yes.
Like, "Ooh, that was not a good decision." And when you're an incident commander, people always say to you, "Have you ever made a bad decision?"
Mm.
And I go, "Yes. Here's the difference." I go, "Why did I make the bad decision? Lack of information, wrong information?" People get into jobs these days. Sometimes they did it with the hope because they thought they didn't have any other option.
Right. The sense of
Sometimes
urgency, yeah.
they go, all right, and then they get there and they go, wow, if I would have known blah, 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 blah,
Mhm.
blah, I would have made a different decision. And so sometimes we make decisions because we don't have the right information. And in most of the cases, I will tell you, especially as it's related to risk or incidents or stuff, I've made a bad decision because I didn't have all the information or the information changed. I was told one thing and that's not what happened. So new information comes in. Hmm, got a better chance of doing
Mhm.
this, right? This is going to work. Okay. Guys, hang on, change of plan, stop, pivot. This is what we're doing, new information. Okay. That goes along with, I mean, there are people who have bad marriages that are where there's abuse or there's bad things going on.
Yeah.
Nobody goes into a relationship going, "Ooh, I'm
I'm
no."
volunteering for it, yes.
Stuff happens, right? But then you pivot. So whether it's your job, whether it's your family situation, whether it's a new skill that you're learning. I remember when I thought archery was a great skill I was going to learn. And after a couple of lessons, I decided I'm not really the archery kind of a gal. Okay. So there's nothing wrong with changing your mind.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with saying either I tried something or I have new information to do it. What's worse is when you stay in a situation, if you've all heard that old saying about if you get on the wrong train,
Mhm.
the best thing you can do is get off that train before it gets to the end of the line. Okay.
Absolutely.
We have to do the same thing here. So asking good questions is really important. Most people don't ask the right questions, many times because they just weren't trained to do it.
Mhm.
Sometimes people have told me, thought about asking that, but I thought it wasn't polite.
Mhm.
Or I thought the person would get mad at me. If it wasn't polite, I'd be like, okay, sorry. I mean, or if they get mad at me, didn't mean to get mad, but now I'm saying, so Sean, why are you mad at me for asking that question? Right? If I ask
Mhm.
you to prove something or show me something, tons of people have been like, well, Marianne, I can't believe you've even asked that. I can't believe you'd expect me to show you that. You want me to put my life in your hands, or at least my financial life or my time life of what I'm going to do, but yet you're upset that I'm asking you a question,
When that
right?
context matters, yes.
That kind of makes you go, hmm. So you talked a little bit about when you're in that road of going forward and you've got to make some decisions. If you don't know look, you don't know what you don't know. Okay. One of the best things that a fellow incident commander told me once was he said, when I was really kind of green, he said, Marianne, can I give you a little bit of advice? And this was a big fire captain. And
Mhm.
I said, sure. He said, here's a question that I learned that I'm always asking. Okay. And the question is this: Sean, what do you know that I don't know that I really need to know? Close mouth, open ears,
Mm.
listen. Okay.
Yes.
Because when you're accountable, I don't care if you're the president of the company or you're
Mhm.
the manager of the customer service department, you don't have to have all the answers. You got to know what decisions to make. So when you're
Yes.
looking for a job, when you're looking to support your family, right? Sometimes you have to ask the right questions. And if you don't know what they are, you need to seek that out.